Money Vikings. All right, Money Viking G here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome back to the program. I got a really good one for you today. We got to talk about the next financial crisis. Got to talk about it. But if you don't mind, if you could like, subscribe, turn on the bell notification, share the channel, trying to grow the channel, grow the blog, and appreciate your support. It's free, it's easy, and every week we are delivering fresh ideas for the middle class to build wealth. So that's what we do week in and week out. We've been doing it for 7 years and would like to grow things. So please help us out with that. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. And basically, I think it's only going to add value to your life. So with that, let's get right into the topic. It's the next financial crisis. Let me give a little background first. So kick back, relax. Let's talk a little bit about let's do a quick history lesson here. If you're someone like me, a Gen Xer, you've lived through several financial crises or financial situations that have been quite difficult on the public at large, on the society, etc. It seems to be a normal part of a capitalist system is that you're going to have these ups and downs. And they're always of a little different flavor, it seems. We learn some lessons, we forget others, and we can't anticipate others. So it can be a mixed bag in terms of what creates a financial crisis. You know, some of the big ones in my lifetime were the dot-com bust. That was a huge sort of run-up in the late 90s to the year 2000, when there was a big kind of overinflated market for internet companies. What's ironic is out of the ashes of that is what brought us things like Amazon and others, which were obviously the huge winners of the last 20, 30 plus years in terms of equities and investing. But at the end of the day, there's been a couple others. The other big one was caused by the housing crisis in 2007, 2008, 2009. And it's just, again, there's an over-exuberance at times and things get kind of out of hand. I would call the pandemic not a financial crisis, but I will say it obviously kicked off the worst inflation that most people alive have ever known. I say that because those that experienced inflation really bad in the 70s, I mean, if you were an adult, like a full-on adult in the 70s, there are a lot of people out there that were kids in the 70s. Did they really experience inflation? I don't know. I mean, I guess they got maybe a few less toys, maybe saw their parents struggle. But if someone was in their 30s in the 70s, then okay, they're in their mid to late 70s now, so they have experienced inflation in their lifetime. But this is probably the second biggest time that they have seen inflation. And so a lot of us that are under the age of, probably anyone under the age of 55 has probably not experienced in their adult life any kind of inflation. So that is really gotten out of hand, as we know. So the next financial crisis, let's put it this way. I would definitely believe that inflation is going to get worse. And the reason for that is because we're undergoing a tariff war. And this week could be pivotal in that tariff war, as we sort of hear, but we'll see. But tariffs are interesting because the end goal, I believe, is to increase manufacturing within the United States. So globalization over the last 40, 50 years had decimated a lot of manufacturing jobs in the United States. But there's nuances to these things. These stories are not always as simple as they seem. One thing that people have to remember about manufacturing in the modern world is that if you ever look on TV or on the internet at an actual factory, a lot of modern factories don't have a lot of people in them. There's a lot of robots. And I do not see any situation where that's slowing down. So this concept of us going back to, you pack your lunch in the thermos and all. You got the thermos and you got the packed lunch and the sandwich, the bologna sandwich. and you march into your well-paying, factory job every day with just a high school diploma and a willingness to show up and do the job, and not being drunk or on drugs, that's basically the only thing you have to do is sign up, bring your lunch, go do your job for 8 hours on the factory floor. I am having a hard time seeing how that is coming back in mass, but that seems to be the point of the tariffs. So I think there's a little bit of a I don't know what the word is, but maybe a little bit of a poison pill or a dichotomy here that may not work out, but we shall see. Only, no one can predict the future, and everything is based on theories. And what happens at the high political levels is levers are pulled, and when those levers are pulled, there's consequences. And we sometimes think we know the consequences, and sometimes we don't know the consequences. We definitely know the consequences of interest rates, right? If you lower interest rates, people will tend to consume and buy more. If you raise interest rates, it makes the cost of borrowing on a car and a house and everything else very high, and people will be cut out of that, and they might pull back on their consumption. Maybe. Okay, so the bottom line being, we got the tariffs coming, and apparently, that is probably going to raise prices more. So I don't know if that's called inflation, but it's definitely a tax on consumption. So what will people do? Will they pull back on consumption? Yeah, if they pull back on consumption, that grinds down the economy, slows down the economy, and then that may impact the value of assets on the stock market and in real estate. But the bottom line is, there could be something coming, and we're going to have to see. I don't like to be alarmist on this channel, so I try not to be, like the sky is falling. I was like this for a while. I try to be very even-keeled, very middle of the road, and that's why I have 5 ideas for you in terms of what to do if there is a financial crisis of some kind coming, how to mitigate, how to prepare now, what you can do now, right? And so the first one I'm going to throw out there is, first of all, remember that if there is a recession or some sort of crisis, these things don't last forever. They tend to work themselves out, and that's what history has shown again and again. It's the person that responds with the knee-jerk reaction and freaks out when the stock market drops and just totally sells everything at a huge loss. That's the person that ends up having really poor returns in their investing life. The people that tend to do really well are those that are able to stay more calm, and they're able to stay the course. So they can buy more assets at that time. They can dollar cost average to get, buy equities at lower prices. They can sort of, weather the storm, stay calm. One of the biggest rules of thumb that I always tell myself when you're looking at like an investment account, if it does go down by quite a bit, let's say you see a 10, 20% drop in the value, is that, again, there should never be a day when you are taking out that whole amount. That's not the idea of an investment account. An investment account is supposed to create a passive income machine where you will be taking out small amounts every month, relatively small, could be $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 in the future. Every month you're taking it out to live off of it. You're not, if you have $500,000 and 1 year it goes down to 400,000 because there's a major correction, that's not a problem. That's actually fine. You're never taking the whole thing out is the idea. So you got to remember that. So stay the course is number one. Number two, it is times like these, we probably in general as Americans and people in the modern world, we probably need to generally reduce our spending. Most people overspend. The savings rate in America is notoriously low and bad, and we could really get a lot better at that. And a lot of people dig holes for themselves because of their awful spending. There's just a lot of impulse spending that's happening all the time in the US. So that's another one. Got to do a budget, and you got to find those places where it's like, you know what, shake your head and say, not this time. I'm not going to spend $200 on this time. I'm going to reduce my costs here. I'm going to get rid of some subscriptions, whatever it might be. Okay, that's number two. Number three is kind of related. For many years now, Jerry and I have shared and talked about our inflation defense systems, IDSs. This is something that has to continue into the foreseeable future because, again, there just seems to be no end in sight in terms of inflation. Inflation is here to stay in some shape or form. I understand they talk about core inflation has come down to maybe 2.8, 2.9%, but everybody knows prices are high. If you go to a fast food restaurant, I was in line at Taco Bell the other day, and it wasn't my bill, but they show you on the screen how much is being charged, and I swear to God, I could not believe it. The car in front had some amount, like it was like $107, and I'm sure they got tons of food. They were just going crazy with the Taco Bell. They were just like Taco Bell. It was like Taco Bell Fiesta nutty time. Okay, I get it. And maybe they were feeding a bunch of people. But when I was growing up, like Taco Bell was dirt cheap. I mean, it was like, I don't know. You'd get like a burrito or a taco for like 50 cents, or a burrito would be like $1.50, and a taco would be like 50 cents. Those days were over. People are spending like $70 at Taco Bell, okay? So anyway, you got to keep up the inflation defense systems because there's no way around it. One idea would be, like, again, sometimes I do like this about Ramit Sethi, who writes a lot of great books about personal finance. And one thing I've picked up from him, and I did this my whole life, but he reiterates it, is that, get the big things right. Then you're not worried about the little things. Now, little things matter too, but if you cannot buy, the new car right now, or, if you're going to buy a new car, buy a practical car. Don't buy like some Cybertruck or something for $100,000. Buy something that makes sense. So that's all part of inflation defense systems right there. Okay. Number 4 is, again, these are all kind of related. It's an interesting time right now. It's 2025, so very futuristic. The tech billionaires have kind of taken over the country. But in a lot of ways, there's a vision to try to go back to like the 1940s or something, or the 1950s. And I guess in some ways, some things, in life you sort of struggle against, but other things it's like just accept them. And, maybe there's some wisdom to this. I guess I'll throw it out there. People did live simpler lives back then, and maybe it was a better time. Maybe they were happier. No time was perfect, but, maybe we don't need the latest tech gadget, or maybe we don't need so much junk around our house, or maybe we don't need the fanciest new car. Maybe we don't need the fanciest new house. Maybe just a nice average size middle class house in a relatively safe neighborhood with a new paint job on it and just kept nice and clean is fine for housing. Maybe we should go back to the 1940s and the 50s and kind of simplify our lives. That's the point there. Okay. The other thing is I'm going to talk about strategic diversification. So maybe people will call me ironic. I don't know what it is, but I think there's a place in a portfolio for your traditional investments like the S&P 500 and the bond funds and all that. But I think there's a 10% place for things like Bitcoin and alternative investments. I'm not saying they're going to do well or not in a financial crisis. They could hold up. They could do very poorly. They are, unfortunately, Bitcoin has been a little too correlated with tech stocks in my mind. I wish it was uncorrelated. I always thought that was kind of the vision, and maybe someday that will change, but that kind of has been the way. But still, I'm going to stay the course on that kind of stuff. So with that, those are some ideas. It's not to be alarmist. It's just one of those things. It doesn't hurt to do a little bit of preparation mentally and financially for the next financial crisis. With that, thanks a lot. See you on the next one. Appreciate you watching.